Now I want to explain a bit about the things the prophets have said concerning the end of the age. When the promise came out of the Garden of Eden, everything in the promise was prophecy. As history advanced, the things that had been nothing more than prophecy suddenly became history. So here we are at the end of the age, and we can look back and see that down through history, God has fulfilled one part of the promise after another. But if you go through the scriptures and ferret out all the promises of God, you will find there are a whole bunch of promises that I haven't even mentioned here. I have only talked about a few of the promises of God that are fairly easy to see have been fulfilled. Now I want to talk about one that is yet to be fulfilled. It's found in the prophecy of Zephaniah, and unfortunately, it has yet to be fulfilled. Do you know what God promised in Zephaniah? He said he's going to do exactly what he said he was going to do at the time of the flood. He's going to wipe mankind off the face of the earth. God made a promise after the flood that said, "Scout's honor, I will never again destroy the earth with a flood." But then he whispers to himself, "But I didn't say fire." If you know your Bible very well, you already know that is exactly what he says he's going to do at the end of the age, so you can count on it. It's a promise. And just like all the other promises of God, you can take it to the bank. We are at a point in history where nuclear weapons can destroy the earth several times over. And Zephaniah tells us God plans to burn the earth with fire. He says God is going to put a complete end to everything, including the descendants of Adam, above the surface of the ground. But he didn't say anything about the people who might be hiding under the surface of the earth. The Chinese have built nuclear bomb shelters that can house 1 million people. The Germans are building bomb shelters in Germany as well. Why? Because they have a hunch. They know the earth is not going to be able to sustain the population explosion. They have known it for 40 or 50 years, and they have been trying to slow the growth down. But the population just keeps on increasing. It used to be 6 billion, now it's up to 8 billion. And increasing every day. And Zephaniah says the burning anger of the Lord is going to cut off the descendants of Adam above the surface of the ground. That promise has not yet been fulfilled, but the stage is being set for it to be fulfilled. I told you nearly 30 years ago that polarization of the world's population would eventually set in. It's here now. You can get a sense of what is going to happen when you look at the controversial back and forth bickering that is currently going on in politics. People are starting to take sides according to whatever ideology they believe in. Right now, it's not exactly clear which way the controversy is going to go. I don't have a clue as to how, but I do know, on the basis of what the prophets tell us, it's going to get worse. So let me tell you this. An abject idiot named Karl Marx came along in 1848 and wrote a treatise titled The Communist Manifesto. He outlined the basic tenets of communism, and he described its beliefs clearly in his manifesto. Communism is an ideology. Communism does not respect national boundaries. Communists want free trade. Communists do not believe in private property. Communists do not care about individual freedom. Communists are the avowed enemy of capitalism. That is so because they want to dominate the world through an ideology that's called communism. Communists understand but 3 things: one-party government, free trade, total control of the population. To this point, the communists have met their match in the Constitution of the United States, but they are working feverishly to get around that document. So let me explain something else to you. Capitalism is an ideology. Capitalism does not respect national boundaries. Capitalists want free trade. Capitalists respect only their own private property. Capitalists do not care about individual freedom. Those things are so because they want to dominate the world through an ideology that's called capitalism. But capitalists do not understand the fact that communism is their avowed enemy. Capitalists understand but three things. One company dominates the marketplace, free trade, total control of the marketplace. Your freedom of religion is currently protected by the Constitution of the United States. No matter what your beliefs might be, they are protected. The Constitution has been the most incredible defense that mankind has ever put in place to defend private property and freedom of religion. But communism hates the Constitution, and capitalism is not invested in the Constitution, even though it is, like you, protected by the Constitution. Nonetheless, it has no real interest in defending the Constitution. You should already be able to see that because nearly every stinking thing the capitalists sell comes from communist China. China is a communist country. That is why you buy something today and you have to buy it again tomorrow because it breaks. That is intentional. The communists build it like that because it increases their profit. And the stupid capitalists like that because it increases their profit. Capitalists are concerned about nothing but the bottom line. Dangle a dollar in front of them and they will walk right off a cliff trying to grab it. But there is yet a third ideology at work today. That ideology is dispensationalism. Dispensationalism arose in the 1830s, about 15 years before Karl Marx wrote the Communist Manifesto. And like communism, it has swept the globe. Christians today firmly believe there will be a new king in Jerusalem who will rebuild Solomon's temple. They also believe that king will be Jesus Christ himself when he returns. Two of the three ideologies I just described are about to hit each other head on, and people are going to be forced to choose sides. I have no idea how that's going to happen or when it's going to happen, but I am absolutely certain that in one way or another, it is going to happen. And when it all boils down and everything is said and done, the leaders of the 10 nations that possess nuclear weapons will make a conscious decision to burn the harlot, that is, this earth, with fire, just like Zephaniah said, and the book of Revelation confirms. That one promise of God is yet to be fulfilled. So let me mention something else for you to consider. The massive ball of flame that comes out of each atomic explosion is where God dwells. He dwells in that unapproachable light. That is possible because that nuclear fire is a dimension. The dimension where God dwells. Since there is no time in that dimension, he can circle the universe zillions of times a second. He can be everywhere at the same time. So when those 10 totally defiled individuals decide it's time to push the red button, those nuclear explosions will start going off all around the world. Then you are going to see Jesus Christ coming in the clouds of glory that arise as the pillar and cloud from each one. In the same way that the pillar and cloud was a representation of the presence of God at the time of Moses, you are going to see him coming in reality. Tens of thousands of those nuclear clouds are going to billow up all around the globe. That's when Jesus Christ will appear in the form he assumed when he was resurrected. But he's not going to build a temple of stone in Jerusalem because God never desired to live in a temple of stone in the first place. He always wanted a house built out of living stones, just as Peter says in 1 Peter 2, and Nathan promised David in 2 Samuel 7. Check it out. See if it's true. You will regret it if you don't. I'm simply saying there is a body of truth that God gave Adam and Eve, and that body of truth has been handed down to this very day. If you have never before heard the things I teach, you might want to hurry up and catch up with those who are already well aware of them. We are rapidly approaching the end of the age, the time when God is going to say, "I told you so." Satan's lies are no longer going to contaminate the truth. God had it all planned out beforehand. Things are changing rapidly all around the world. That's because Satan is running scared. He is terrified, and he thinks the only way that he can accomplish anything at all is through confusion, people screaming at people with whom they disagree. But what Satan thought he had accomplished is not going to happen. As the Apostle Paul says, those who have not repented and been born again are dead in their trespasses and sins. So, if you are content in living in the realm of the dead, you're not even going to consider the fact that what I'm telling you is true. You're going to hide in the darkness of the ignorance that envelops us. So if you decide to test God by discussing the Scriptures intellectually rather than looking at their true meaning and significance and believing it, you have a problem. My advice would be, if I were to give advice, which I don't, you might want to consider solving that problem before it's too late.